My girlfriend's best friend threw me down the stairs and manipulated her into breaking up with me. He then tried to burn my house and assaulted me, so I got him imprisoned. I met Emily in Bristol at a party with friends. She was laughing, holding a glass of wine in her hand, talking about books that I loved. We talked for 3 hours. We didn't notice anyone around. When she said, "Maybe we'll meet again," I felt that something in my life had changed. We started dating. A month later I already knew it was serious. She was kind, sensitive, brave. Not familiar with drama. Not jealous. But she had a best friend, Luke. He always showed up. At our parties. On walks. Even when we were alone, he would suddenly call, "Emily, have you forgotten that we agreed?" And she know. They didn't agree on anything. At first I didn't pay attention. I thought, maybe they're really close. Childhood friends. Family ties. But then strange things started happening. One day we were sitting in her apartment. We were watching a movie. Suddenly Luke called. "Emily, where are you?" "At home. With James." "Oh, sorry. I thought we were having dinner tonight. You said he went to his parents' house." "No," she said. "I didn't say anything like that." "Wait, and now you're saying I'm lying?" She hung up. She looked at me. "He's sometimes overworked. But he just said you were lying. He just cares." I didn't answer. But for the first time, I heard tension. Not between us. But between her and him. And between me, as if it were unnecessary. A week later he came to our house. Unannounced. Knocking on the door. When Emily opened the door, he came in, sat down on the couch and said, "I've had a bad day. Can I stay here for the night?" "Look," she said. "We didn't agree. But you won't say no to someone else, will you?" She looked at me. I nodded. I didn't want to cause a conflict. He stayed. But at night I could hear them talking. Quietly. Then laughter. Then silence. The next day he left. But every week he showed up more and more often. He started criticizing me. "You're too closed off, James. You don't give her freedom. She was more cheerful until she met you." I kept quiet. I didn't want to be aggressive. But Emily began to change. She became tense. She called him often. She apologized for me. He didn't mean, "He's just tired." One day she said, "Luke thinks you control me." "What?" "He says you don't let me be myself." "Do you think so?" "No, but he's my best friend. He knows me better." For the first time I felt I was being pushed out. Not violently. Not by shouting. But slowly. Like a growing shadow. 2 months later I decided to talk to Luke. I met him in a coffee shop. "Listen," I said. "I don't want conflict. But you constantly interfere." "I care about her," he said. "And you? You're just using her." "That's not true. What if she wants to break up? Then I'll respect her decision. But she can't accept it while you're around. What do you want us to break up?" "I want her to be happy." "And I don't?" He looked at me. And said quietly, "You don't belong to her." I didn't realize then that it was a warning. A week later Emily said, "Luke is suggesting we go on a trip. To the Lake District. Just the 3 of us." "I don't want to," I said. "Why?" "Because it's not normal. We're a couple. And he's always with us. He's my friend. That's important to me. And me. You're important too. But he's always been there." I agreed. Not because I wanted to. But because I was afraid of losing her. The trip was a nightmare. Luke kept trying to leave us alone. Then she suddenly appeared. He told me stories that made me look selfish. He said that Emily deserves better. That she just hasn't realized it yet. We returned to the house on the last day. It was late. It was raining. I went upstairs to get my things. Emily stayed downstairs with Luke. And then I heard a scream. Then a hit. Then a fall. I rushed down. And I saw, I was lying on the floor. My head was covered in blood. The stairs were behind me. And by the wall were Luke. And Emily. "What happened?" I asked, trembling. "You fell," Luke said. "I tried to stop you." "I didn't hear you," Emily said. "You suddenly lost your balance." I didn't believe it. But they took me to the hospital. Diagnosis: Concussion, cut on the temple. The doctors said, you must have slipped. But I remembered. I didn't fall. Someone had grabbed me. From behind. While I was going up. I called the police. I told them everything. They said, there's no evidence. Only my word against two. A week later Emily said, I can't take it anymore. Luke says you've become aggressive. That you're blaming him for no reason. But he pushed me. I didn't see it. You were down there. I heard you fall. And you believe him, not me? She fell silent. Then she said, I love you. But I can't live with this tension. So what are you doing? I'm making a decision. What decision? We're parting ways. I left. Without my things. Without saying goodbye. Just left. But that night I knew, this wasn't the end. This was the beginning. Because I already understood, Luke is not just a best friend. He wanted to destroy me. For employment is my place. And I will not stop until I prove who he really is. After Emily said, it's over, I went back to my house in Bath. A small half-timbered house that I had bought with my savings over 3 years. I was proud of it. I thought of it as a refuge. But now it looked empty. Like me. I stayed up all night. Not because of Emily. But because I felt, it's not over yet. Luke didn't just want to break us up. He wanted to destroy me. A week after the breakup, I opened my email. There was a message from an anonymous note. You can't prove anything anymore. She believes me. And no one needs you. I gave it away. But I kept the IP address. I filed a request with my ISP. A month later I got a reply. The IP would be at the house in Bristol, where Luke lives. This was the first piece of evidence. Not legal. But personal. I already knew. He was watching. He hadn't stopped. I started recording everything. I installed cameras at the entrance. I turned on the recording on my phone when someone called. Now I started keeping a diary. Dates, events, impressions of moments. And then strange things started. One morning I went out and saw, on the door, chalk writing, "Get out." 2 days later, the windows in the garage were broken. Then, the electricity was turned off. Not because of an accident. Someone disconnected the cable. I reported it to the police. Are you a suspect? The officer asked. Yes. Luke Morris. My ex-girlfriend's best friend. Do you have evidence? Anonymous messages, IP, threats. This is not evidence of a crime. We will open an investigation, but without a physical attack or video, we cannot act. I did not give up. A week later I installed an additional camera, directed at the road to the house. And at night I saw someone approaching. In black. With a bag. Go to the door. Put something down. And leave. I went out in the morning. On the doorstep, a bottle of gasoline. And a note, "You no longer have the right to light." I trembled. It was not a threat. It was preparation for arson. I immediately filed a report. The police arrived. They took the bottle, the note, the camera. We will open a case, they said. But you have to leave the house. At least for the night. It's dangerous. I moved in with a friend in Gloucester. But I go every day to check the house. And one day I saw, my house was enveloped in smoke. Flames were shooting out of the windows. The police were already there. A fire engine. Neighbors. I ran up. This is my house. What happened? Attempted arson, said the fireman. Someone lit a torch under the door. The flames spread to the porch. We arrived in time. I looked at the camera. It was working. And the recording was everything. Someone in a hood holding up a lighter. Setting fire to the material. Running. I gave the recording to the police. We recognize the gate, said the detective. Is this the same man you call Luke? Yes. We're leaving. A year later they detained him. In his pocket, another bottle of gasoline. On the computer, pages with searches. How to destroy a witness? Is it possible to set fire to a house without a trace? On the phone, correspondence with a stranger. Help cover the tracks. Ready to pay. He was arrested. For attempted arson, threat to life, cyber threats, blackmail. I met with the prosecutor. We've had enough, he said. He'll go to trial. But the worst was ahead. 3 days later, Emily called. "I didn't know," she said. "I thought you were lying. And now I've seen the recording. And his messages to me, what? He said, 'After I destroy James, you'll know who really loves you.' And you believed him? I was stupid. I thought he cared. And he was planning to kill me." She cried. "What should I do?" "Nothing. I want to help." "Then come as a witness." "I will." The trial began 2 months later. I stood in front of the courtroom. I saw Luke. He wouldn't look at me. It was like I was dead. The prosecutor announced the charges: attempted arson with intent to murder, physical assault, pushing down stairs, cyber blackmail, threats to life. Forensic experts confirmed the blow to the temple was not from a fall. He was pushed through. The camera recording is clear. The bottles, messages, evidence from his devices are indisputable. A week later, the court ruled 12 years in prison. No parole for 8 years. When they were taking him out, he turned around. He looked at me and said, "She'll come back to me anyway." I approached. I didn't shout. I didn't threaten. I just said, "You lost her. Not me. You." He fell silent. And they took him away. I left the building. I stood in the rain. And for the first time in many months I feel relief. Not joy. Not pleasure. And simply, I survived. I proved the truth. I stayed alive. But I knew this was not the end. This was the beginning of recovery. Because even after the victory remained. In the head. In the heart. In memories. And now I had a choice. To become a victim forever. Or to become someone who, together with others, would not become like me. I did not yet know how. But I knew I would not stop. After the trial, I returned to my house in Bath. The facade had been renovated. The windows were new. The doors were made of solid wood, with a combination lock. But inside everything was different. Not because of the renovation, but because of memory. Every step brought back memories. Here was the petrol bottle. Here was the note I found. Here were the flame marks on the floor. And here were the stairs they had dragged me down. I couldn't sleep at night. Every noise, a window, a tree, a cat on the roof, made me jump. I installed an alarm system, added more cameras, even bought a dog temple, a Labrador. He became my shadow, my guard, my friend. But even he couldn't calm what was inside. I went to a psychologist, Mr. Wilkins, in Bristol. Not because I believed in it, and because I know that if I don't stop now, it will destroy me completely. "What's your biggest concern?" he asked in the first session. "Not fear," I said. "It's that I've started to think like him." "What do you mean?" "I check the door 10 times a night to make sure it's locked. I look for reviews from people around me. I read Emilio's messages and look for protected content. I don't trust even those who support me anymore." And that's something about him. The way he thought. The way he saw the world, as hostile territory. Mr. Wilkins nodded. "It's post-traumatic stress disorder. You survived. But your mind is in combat mode. He doesn't understand that the threat is over." And how do you make him understand? To regain control. Not through fear, but through choice. I don't know what that means. I haven't gotten the letter yet. From Emilio. I don't know where to begin. I ruined everything. I believed the person who planned to kill you. I didn't see him destroy us both. I don't want you to forgive. But I want you to know, I'm doing everything I can to fix myself. I'm in therapy. I've cut ties with everyone who supported him. No excuses. I read this and sat down. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt she was a victim too. Not physically, but mentally. Years of manipulation. Years of lies. Years of feeling like she belonged to no one but him. I didn't reply right away. I waited a week. Then I wrote, "I can't do it. Not now. Maybe never. But I'm glad you see the truth. It's important. Not for me, but for you. Because now you can live, not be someone else's story." She replied 3 days later. "Thank you. This is the first time in a year that I feel real." I saved that message. Not as a reminder of her, but as proof that even cheaters can wake up. if they are given the chance to see the truth. A month later, I went back to work. I work as a graphic designer in a small studio. When I explained why I had disappeared for 6 months, my manager said, "We heard about the trial. We read the news. And you still want to hire me? You survived. You fought. You didn't break. This is more than just an experience." I started working. At first for a few hours. Then a full day. But it happens, I started talking. Not right away. First with a psychologist. Then with friends. Then on a forum for domestic violence victims. I wrote a story. No names. No cities. Just the truth. A week later, my girlfriend wrote to me. "My husband's best friend is trying to ruin our marriage. He says I belong to him. He's watching me. I'm afraid he did something cruel. Your story stopped me from staying silent. Thank you." I read this and realized, I'm not just surviving. I'm setting a signal for others. And then I made a decision, I won't stay silent. I'm going to tell everything. Not for fame. But so that someone who is standing on the edge right now can hear, you are not alone. And it can be stopped. I started writing a talk. Not for TED. Not for television. But for a local abuse support group. It was called, "The Best Friend Who Wants to Destroy You." I wrote for a month. Every word was a step. Every paragraph was a choice between a lie and the truth. And when I stood in front of an audience of 60 people, and I saw their eyes filled with fear, with hope, with pain, I said, he wasn't a monster. He was a man who had lost himself. But that doesn't excuse what he did. And if you're hearing now, it's just friendship, it's caring. You're too sensitive. Remember, abuse doesn't always hit. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it calls itself love. After the talk, a woman came up to me. "My husband doesn't know," she said. "But his best friend, he writes to me. And what are you going to do?" I opened the door. "As you do." I nodded. And in that moment I understood, victory is not when he is put in prison. Victory is when someone else does not become a victim. And I already know, this will be my business. Not design. Not fame. But a voice for those who are afraid to speak. After the Bristol show, people started writing to me. First one. Then dozens. Letters, messages, emails. All with one theme, you're the first to call it out. People told stories about best friends who stalked them, about girlfriends who ruined marriages, about colleagues who spread lies, about those who, while pretending to care, actually took control. I couldn't answer them all. But I could do more. I launched a project, Silent No More. Not an organization. Not a foundation. Just a platform, a website, social media, an anonymous forum for stories. The goal? To show what emotional abuse looks like when it's hidden behind the mask of friendship. I published stories, anonymously. With permission. With comments that helped identify the signs. When support becomes controlling. When caring turns into isolation. When your best friend starts speaking for you. The first story I published was from a man in Manchester. His best friend lived with him for 12 years. Constantly. Criticized his wife. Said she didn't understand him. Then he started writing it on his husband's behalf. Then he set fire to the garage to blame her. The husband didn't see it until the day he found the letters. When I published it, the reaction was instant. Thousands of views. Hundreds of comments. That was my brother. That's my girlfriend. I thought I was alone. I didn't expect it to become this big. But I knew, people weren't just reading. They were recognizing themselves. 2 months later, I was invited to BBC Radio 4. The program was called, The Friend Who Crossed the Line. I told him everything, about Emily. About falling down the stairs. About setting the fire. About the trial. About how long I thought it was my fault. After the broadcast, a guy from Edinburgh wrote to me. I feel like Alex. My best friend says I belong to him. He won't let me see girls. He says they're destroying us. He hit me when I said I wanted to get an HIV test without him. I was afraid no one would believe me. But after your performance, I filed a police report. Thank you for speaking up. I read it and sat down. And for the first time I felt, This is not just a story. This is saving lives. But not everyone was supportive. A week after the broadcast, I received a letter in the mail. No sender. Subject: you don't know what you're doing. You're destroying friendships. You're blaming the innocent. People have a right to be close. You just couldn't keep a girl, and now you're blaming something else. I didn't reply. But a day later another letter arrived. From a woman. This was written by my husband. He's your fan. But he doesn't know I'm writing to you. He says you're a liar. But he's like Luke. He controls me. He refuses to meet with my friends. He says they'll break me. I've read about your illness and I'm crying every night. I don't know how to get out. But you're right. I replied to her. Not as a hero. As a person. I told her how to find help. How to gather evidence. Establish how to organize. And I said, you're not alone. And you have the right to be free. A month later she wrote, I got out. With my child. To a shelter. And for the first time in 10 years, I'm breathing with my chest full. I couldn't stop. I started organizing local meetings, support circles. Not as a doctor. Not as a judge. But as someone who had been through it. People would come. They would talk. They would cry. They would hug each other. And in that moment I realized, this wasn't just help. This was recovery. Not just theirs. It was mine. But the one who surprised me the most was Emily. She came to one of the meetings. Unannounced. Standing by the door. I saw her. My heart skipped a beat. But I didn't go over. She did. I don't want anything, she said. I just wanted to see how you would respond. And how? That's great. You could help too. I don't know if I deserve it. It's not about merit. What's it about? It's about not letting another woman go through what you've gone through. She paused. Then she said, I started a blog. About how easy it is to believe a lie if it sounds like concern. How hard it is to get out when you are convinced that you are going crazy. That is important, I said. But can I ever ask for forgiveness? Not me. Who? To myself. Because the hardest thing is to forgive yourself for not seeing the truth in time. She nodded and said, I am working on it. I do not know if we will ever be friends, if we can talk without pain, but I know that she is no longer his story. She is writing her own. And that is a victory. And I continue. Every day. Every letter. Every speech. Because I know that as long as even one man or woman remains silent because they are afraid that they will not be believed, I have no right to remain silent. Today I am 27. I live in Bath in the same building. The facade has been renovated. The windows are strong. The doors have a combination lock. But inside there is no fear. There is life. I work not only as a designer. I run Silent No More. Now it is an official organization to support victims of violence. We have a team of 7 people. We give speeches. We train psychologists, social workers, teachers to recognize the signs of dangerous friendship. We have a hotline, an online chat, a mentoring program. And every month dozens of people find a way out. Once a guy came up to me after a speech. How did you do it? He asked. How did you not break down? I broke down, I answered. I just didn't stay down. He cried. He told me that his best friend had been controlling his life for 3 years. He doesn't let me have girls. He says that they will cheat. He listens to calls. He speaks after him. I thought it was love, he said. But now I understand, it's prison. We helped him. We filed a police report. We found shelter. 6 months later, he was working as a barista. He was studying. And one day he wrote to me, for the first time in 10 years I said no, and I don't feel guilty. That's what victory is. Not a trial. Not a prison sentence. But the restoration of freedom. I haven't forgiven Luke. I don't think I ever will. Forgiveness is not a victim's duty. It's a choice. And I'm not ready to make it yet. But I didn't let him change my life. One day, I got a letter from prison. From him. You won. She didn't come back. No one visits me. I understand what I did. But does that change the fact that I'm lost? I don't want to be a monster. I just couldn't stand by and watch her choose another. You'll never understand me. But if you ever read this, you know, I'm sorry. For trying to destroy you. Stopped in time. I read it. I looked out the window. At the sun shining on the tree I planted a year ago. And I said out loud, this isn't about you. This is about those you destroyed. And I won't disappear. Because everyone who comes out of the shadows because of my story is a blow to your victory. I didn't answer the letter, but I kept it. Not as a trophy, but as a warning. Even those who lose control can become dangerous. And the world needs to learn to see that sooner. Emily writes sometimes. Not about the past. About how she lives. Who is writing a book about manipulation. Who is working with a psychologist. Who has a girlfriend who doesn't control her for the first time in years. Are you happy? I asked once. No, she said. But I'm on my way. Enough. I don't want to be a hero. I just want someone who is standing in the rain right now to feel like I did. You will survive. And this will be your beginning. So I keep talking. Not for fame. Not for money. But because I know that out there, someone is waiting for the word that will stop him from disappearing. And when I look at myself in the mirror, I no longer see a victim. I see a person who has been through hell and emerged not broken, but reborn. So if you're reading this and your best friend is your enemy, and you've lost yourself in a relationship, and you've been told you're going crazy, remember, you are not who you were made to be. You are a survivor. And this is your beginning. I don't want to be a symbol. I want to be a voice. A voice for those who are silent. A voice for those who don't believe that getting out is possible. A voice for those who don't yet know that they are not alone. And I will not disappear. Because as long as there is at least one person who needs that voice, I will speak out. Because it's not how you were broken that matters. It's how you rebuild yourself that matters. And if you're reading this, it's not the end. It's the beginning.